And now we meet up with Andy Jameson of Leaf and Stone Natural Pools to look at a recent project he completed in Cape Town.
We're here in Scarborough, right on the southern tip of the Cape Peninsula, sitting next to one of my natural swimming pool creations. So a natural swimming pool is essentially a man-made body of water for swimming in, but instead of using chlorine to keep it clean, to keep it sterilized, it uses natural biological processes. So in nature, plants are used, but also there's a whole lot of life of microbes and bacteria that live on the roots of the plants, they live in the gravel. And with a natural pool, you create a wetland. We call it a biofilter, or it's often called a regeneration zone. And all of the water is slowly and constantly moving through these plants, moving through the gravel, and that's what's keeping the water pure and clean. So you're creating a system that is in balance. And that means that once you get that balance, it's actually far more stable. And natural pools can come in lots of different designs and shapes. There's a misconception that they always have to be quite wild or look like ponds, but you can have them quite formal, you can have them look like wild ponds. And often there's a 1-to-1 ratio of your wetland or your plant area to the swim area. And again, they can be quite merged, so you really feel like you're swimming in amongst the plants, and you can create a divide so that the plants are quite separate. And that's really quite a subjective thing, depending on whether people are squirmish and they don't want to see any plants or little tadpoles where they're swimming. So the design is always very flexible. But with this one, there's an L-shaped wetland running around the pool. It's a nice deep pool because we built it next to this garage. It's about 3 meters deep. And that allowed us to actually put a whole lot of river stone on the bottom of the pool. But what's quite unique about these freshwater swimming pools is that you have crystal clear clarity all the way to the bottom. And that's not something you see very often in nature in South Africa. The water is often very brown with tannins if you go into mountain pools, so you don't actually see the bottom. So having a swimming pool with fresh water that looks like it's natural, but with that clarity to the bottom is quite unique. And the water is constantly being pulled through the wetland and circulated. And that's actually done with tiny little submersible pumps. So what's beautiful here is that it's whisper quiet, it's totally silent. And also all of that life that's going on in the root zone of the plants has a whole lot of other ecological functions. They trap viruses, they trap pathogens, they're giving life to the water. So they're not just removing nutrients, they're actually keeping it sterile and clean. So I always say to people who have an interest in natural pools that if they love gardening, then a natural pool is definitely for them because it becomes an extension of the garden. And tending for a natural pool and the maintenance required is kind of exactly the same as a garden. There's some pruning that's needed. Maybe whenever you're swimming, you're observing your plants, pulling things out here and thinking about what you might plant next. So if anyone wanting to create a natural pool for themselves, a lot of people have some questions or concerns initially. Are they safe? And I always say to people, absolutely, it's safer than swimming in a mountain stream or a dam at a farm. But primarily, if you're wanting to embrace swimming in natural water, you will never look back. One of my favorite things about natural pools is that they're constantly evolving dynamic systems. So I'm fortunate enough that I get to create all these pools for different clients, and when I come back and visit them, I'm genuinely so excited because I get to observe all the little things that have changed and how the plants have grown, and that it's a living organic system. And that's probably what I'm most excited by. Well, what I would say is be careful swimming in a natural pool if you ever have swum in one, because it's likely that you'll never be able to swim in a chlorine pool again. It's such a different experience, and you'll very suddenly and very quickly realize how odd it has been to swim in chlorinated water your whole life.